And this is what I always tell myself. I am the only person in this room that can do this. That's it. There might be some guy out there that knows the lines, but he doesn't know how to do it in this production. He doesn't. I'm the only person that can do it. I have an advantage over everyone in this room in that I'm the only one that can do it. So I'm going to do it. I get to do it now.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is authentic, inspiring, and reflective. Derek has a great philosophy around fear. He encourages us to allow the voice of curiosity to be louder than the voice of fear. It is simply mesmerizing and brilliant. I had a great time chatting with Derek. His perspectives on life are interesting and inspiring. He's a cool, all-round dude. I know you'll love this chat as much as I have. Okay, let's get into it. Derek Wilson is an actor who can currently be seen reoccurring on both Gen V and The Boys as fan favorite Tek Knight. He starred opposite Josh Hutcherson and Eliza Coupe for 3 seasons of Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's Hulu comedy Future Man. Some of his other television credits include a series regular on AMC's Preacher, reoccurring roles on Billions, The Good Wife, and Rectify, and guest stars on Person of Interest and Aquarius. Features include The Last Girl and the upcoming OXALIS. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about doing over 20 Shakespeare plays, Future Man, going to acting school at 29, previously being a serious actor guy, human messiness, perfection, David Koechner, his life-changing call after Preacher, his soul dog, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. I think you've done over 20 Shakespeare plays, which is crazy to me. Do you want to do the whole list? Is this like a Pokemon game where you're like...
But so why is that crazy? Why is that crazy to you?
I think that's so interesting, like the passion. Often you see, I know you started in theatre, but a lot of people, they assume like TV and film don't, have any interaction with theatre, whereas most like actors actually start in theatre and do theatre, and that's where their fun and passion is. So I love it.
I think that's something that maybe used to be more true than it is now. Yeah. I think because back in the off-Broadway heyday, you would have like actors would come out of Juilliard and go do Shakespeare in the Park, and those actors were Meryl Streep and and Christopher Walken and Christopher Reeve, and then they would go on and do movies. So it was more about there was this sort of system in place that I feel like really. I graduated from acting school in 2011, and by that point it really wasn't like that already. It was already like, to do theater you had to already be a star to do like New York commercial theater. And it feels like it's pretty much still like that. I mean, you can do smaller productions and regional theater, which is primarily what I've done is regional theater. But so it's just, I mean, I have known one or two people that came out of school and did theater and had a big fancy part and got some TV and film work out of it, but it's really rare anymore.
I've heard that. Yeah,
but I ask you why it's surprising. I guess because I guess I understand why it's surprising. I just wanted to know why it was surprising to you, because it's different for a lot of people. Like Shakespeare, is it because Shakespeare is like difficult to understand? Is it, or you just it's boring, or
I know
like
no
one does it, or
there's a whole list. One, as you were alluding, no, you said it, that a lot of actors, it seems these days, they just, not all, but some, it's straight into TV and film and maybe not doing it for like passion purposes. But when you hear someone has done, for example, Shakespeare in that many times, it feels like there's a passion there to learn the craft. You love the craft. You want to grow. There's something about it that's inspiring. And this new wave isn't as necessarily as involved in theatre. And a lot of guests have said that they would do theatre all the time if it would pay the bills. They do theatre for like just to reset their soul, and then do TV and film, get the money when they can, if they can, and then go to theatre to ground.
That's kind of where I am now, although I've kind of, I don't know, I don't feel the need to do theater anymore. I did so much, I did a lot before I even went to acting school. That's where I did a lot of regional theater and Shakespeare and directed some. I didn't come into acting until I was 25. And then I went to school when I was 29. So there were 4 years in there where I was just sort of doing a lot of Shakespeare.
Nice.
And I was really nerdy about it, and I carried the plays around with me in New York and read them on the side. I mean, I was that serious actor guy, reading Shakespeare, but I do think it doing that and learning and doing those roles did teach me a lot about acting and about being present and forward, because there's very little to no subtext in Shakespeare. It's all everything that a character says is true for the most part. So it's very like in the moment. And a teacher told me one time, we're not going to talk about shit. I don't want to talk about Shakespeare the whole time. But you can cut all this out because it may be totally boring. But a teacher told me one time that Shakespeare's characters are aware of the fact that they only have 2 hours to live, which means that they act now. There's an immediacy to everything they do, every action they play.
Interesting.
So starting acting doing Shakespeare was that taught me a lot about being in the moment and affecting your partner and the difference between subtext and no subtext and irony. There is irony in Shakespeare, but maybe not subtext. There's a difference there. So anyway,
I find this interesting. I just want to let you know.
Okay, good. Now, it's been a long time since I've had my Shakespeare hat on. And so in the pandemic, I did a couple of
Zoom ones?
what everyone did. I did over recordings of a couple of the plays, just to stay engaged and busy, and it was really fun and really fulfilling for that time. But they were all plays that I had already done, so it's not like that's not in my number of plays, but 20 something. So anyway, I think doing that much Shakespeare was maybe the best teacher I could have had, and then going into acting school with that behind me and a little bit more age, I think that was it was perfect for me.
That's brilliant. And also, you don't normally hear that you have that much wealth of experience before you start school. So that was your school before school.
I know. It was because I I did like a non-union year down at the Shakespeare Theater in DC and played little, spear carrier parts and things. And this was like 2004 or 5. And just watched great actors use the language, understudied, and it was great training. It was really hard and great training. And so, yeah, by the time I got into school, I was, I mean, to some degree, I probably came in with a bit of a chip on my shoulder. Like,
How so?
well, like, I've already been out there.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it, and I'm
Done
a
it
bit
all.
older, and
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. But so I quickly had to like just shed that bullshit, and I was in acting school because I needed to get rid of that and be more vulnerable, and yeah.
That's awesome. And, kudos to you because you would have an ego. You've been doing this for a while. And then to recognize, you said vulnerability, ego as well. It could still be like, you know what, I've done this. I don't need to go to school. You're giving me a look.
Yeah,
But-
no, I'm just listening. That's my listening face.
And
No.
you could be like, I've done this. I don't need to go to school. I've already done it all. All these games, all these mind games that, we could play, but you still went to school and you wanted to learn. What actually compelled you? Was it, to learn about vulnerability? Yeah.
Well, it was that, and just working some and being in the theater regionally, working with actors who had gone to school, and I went to NYU to Tisch grad acting, and the actors, I was finding that the actors that had come out of that program were my favorite actors to work with. Cool. There was something really. I hear people say this, about actors, about classmates of mine and people from my era now, but like trying to put myself back in that time and how, like, there was something really forward and fearless and gutsy about and messy. That's what I like the most, is how messy they seem to be. And so, I wanted that because like I said at the time, I was sort of serious actor guy, and brooding and wanted to be whatever. It was like more about an image thing, and so like, yeah, I'm maybe, and there's just the professional reasons to go to a program like that, which is like, it's an expensive way to get an agent, but at the time it was kind of one of the ways to get hooked into the business, to the industry.
Oh, that's a really cool arc, and it's expensive in the short term, but in the long term, it pays off.
It's expensive in the long term too. So it's yeah, trust me, it's it's a very expensive school.
Okay, fair. I wrote down a few things, and you mean when you mentioned fearless and the messy. Do you mean messy as not necessarily as a performance, but people that were a whole array of different characters and realized that you could just be you? Is that what you're alluding to?
Well, kind of. I mean that life itself is messy. Like, you had to turn away from the mic just now and cough or sneeze or whatever. Like, that is life.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not perfect. Perfection is so fucking boring, right? It is, but messiness in humans is interesting to watch and to see and to experience. And so I was in a place of, I didn't know how to allow myself to be like that, to just sort of be, to play a prince in Shakespeare and like, be a prince that like scratches his ass and like burps and, like, not to do it to like get attention, but because he's a human.
Yeah.
I just there was a fear to sort of, am I allowed to do that? And so I just, I wanted to be able to allow myself to go there and to just be human. That's all it means, is just to be a human.
That amazing because so many people in life feel we have to be a certain way, especially in acting. You know, your agents and the casting directors will see you as a certain type. We might not see
Well,
ourselves as
yes.
that type, or we think we need to be a certain way. But I feel like, and I've only started going through this process as many layers, I haven't mastered this. But as we remove the layers, it makes things more enjoyable, life more enjoyable. You're more present, you're more grounded. So I feel like, and you know, it's also at such a young age, and to have that awareness is so exciting. So have you noticed the layers kind of like shed? But then at the same time, I'm throwing a lot at you, there's still like the agents and the casting directors and all of that who see you as this certain person, but you're not that necessarily that person.
So that side to me is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
There is, this is hard. So much of my life in the past 5 years, as with all of us, most of us, in the past 5 years, we auditioned with like this, you know, over Zoom. I have one tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is so impersonal. And, you know, if we have to do a scene right now, how am I going to be? It's a facsimile of mess. That's what an audition is anyway. Even if I'm going in a room and meeting the casting director and the casting assistant, there's still an artificial quality to it. But there's an impediment here that is this technology between us.
Yeah.
That it makes it, you just have to like, that's when it is still art, because you really have to engage your imagination and create the room and the environment as if that person is in the room with you and you're smelling the same things and hearing the same things.
There's an energy that you can just feel in person.
And it is, the art is making it look natural, which is what acting on camera is anyway. But this makes it so hard being, you know, on a screen trying to act with you. It's on my mind too, because I have to do it tomorrow, and I look forward to it. But it's the way it is now. But man, it's hard. It's harder to find the art in it. But I do think my training for being able to find something in that artistically satisfying in that, because it's really all we have right now. Unless you're regular on a series or you know, working all the time, which I'm not at that place.
Like less, it seems like less than 1% of people are.
Less than what?
Less than 1% of people are series regulars all the time, and that's such a small minority of people.
Exactly. And when that has happened for me before, I feel extremely lucky, and it's not lost on me. And I hope I get that again someday. But, you know, I might not. And that's just the way it is. So, yeah, the auditions, even in this way, over Zoom or making a tape, you have to find some kind of joy in that, and it's really hard some days. And my partner and I do it. We tape each other.
Oh, cool.
She's an actress as well, and so we often have to remind each other that, you know, we have to find joy in this, because this is where we get to act today, is right here in front of this little phone. Yeah.
I think that's really cool, because in fact, I've barely met anyone that enjoys auditioning at the best of times. And
look, I hate it. I've always hated it. Before COVID, I hate it. I think it's awful. I get an appointment sometimes. I have to really retrain myself, because I'll get an appointment sometimes. It comes through my email, and my first thought a lot of times is, oh, fuck. It's just, I think it's a natural thing that a lot of people go through. And and it's not because I don't appreciate the opportunity. It's that anyone that does this is like preaching to the choir, but like, you got to get yourself up and you got to be vulnerable. And then as soon as it's over, you got to put your hard shell back on And that just gets exhausting because, you know, they're going to say no. They're going to say no almost every time. So you're just doing it for yourself and for the joy you get from it. But sometimes it just that immediate reaction is just, oh, fuck, you know. 'Cause it's,
no, I think
it's tough.
I can only imagine. I do screenwriting, and, you know, listening to what you said and everyone else said, that one day when I get my scripts produced, somehow, even if you have to like tape it, you're flying down and we're doing it in person. Because you need to feel the energy. I never understood chemistry reads, for example, via Zoom. Like there's so, okay, tell me.
I mean, I've done a few of them and it makes no sense to me. And I did one a couple of years ago, you know, during COVID, and a fairly well-known actor I was reading with, and I could just feel that he already had the job. He was, you know, he was on set and they're just reading, and like, I could just feel him saying, "I'm sorry, you have to do it this way, man." Like, I could just feel that. And in a way it made it a little bit better. But like, it's just, yeah, what is the point?
I know.
What is the point? And, you know, I get a chemistry Zoom meeting with a director, maybe. I could see that.
Because that's more a conversation. As what? Sorry for interjecting.
Just like what we're doing here.
Yeah, this is way more personal. But if I was like, "Hi, how are you? Perform for me, leave," that feels so robotic and completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. And that instance, like, you could tell they were on set. They were on their lunch break, so they pulled this guy. You know, and so I also was a little bit like, "I'm sorry, you have to do," you know, like, this is your downtime, and here you are doing a chem read with me over a computer. It's ridiculous. But that's just, thankfully, there have started to be a few more in-person auditions recently, every once in a while.
But kudos to you, and I'm also surprised that it's taken so long to come back, but that's... I'm getting a casting director on soon, so I'll ask her all these questions. But going back, this is what I'm really impressed about. Forget about all the things that we've said. You've also mentioned nerves as well, which everyone has, and, you know, potentially it's not the most fun thing to do, or the process leading towards an audition. But what you do is you've got a process to make it as less horrible as possible by trying to find the joy. And I think that's really important because it is very scary. It is very vulnerable. It is bizarre, especially for people not in the space. Doesn't quite make any sense. But it sounds like you've developed a technique, and maybe it's also with your partner, where you look for things. Can you explain that to me? That's awesome.
Well, I happen to be very fortunate in that she is an incredible artist and actor, and so she, like the best reader I could ever have.
Cool.
You know, and also, so that's especially when all we were doing was taping each other. That was, it's priceless. Technique. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it would ever be. I don't know anything about what my techniques would be. I have pretty severe anxiety. So
I'm surprised to hear that. I'm sure you get that a lot. But like, you're surprised because you come across very calm and confident.
I can't believe. See, that's surprising to me because.
Oh, really?
I'm just a fidgety mess. I think because I feel inside just the atoms just like bouncing everywhere all the time, and so the thing, I guess, that social anxiety is the worst in a social situation where I have to be present and myself. A party, opening night party, whatever, a wedding. It's really hard for me. When I am auditioning or acting, I don't know what it is because it's like I give myself a longer leash or something. Like I allow myself to be vulnerable, and there's something about hiding within a character too, but it's not really hiding. It's the sort of illusion to myself that I'm hiding a bit, that I get this layer of a character, but I'm really just allowed to be myself. Whereas at a party or something social, it's just myself, and it's just the topics that are about me or my opinions or I'd much rather listen to people or someone tell the story than I never want to be the center of attention.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Never. I mean, a small gathering of like 3 or 4 friends, that's fine.
Yeah.
I often find myself in places with, people in the business, actors and people who are really good at like being in a room and telling stories. And that is, if I were able to allow myself to do that, I might be okay at it. But man, it scares the hell out of me. So I would much rather watch someone else do that and listen to someone.
That's a really interesting perspective. I used to be, I think, the most like extroverted, but not like loud and go up to everyone. Like I was friendly and nice and chatting. But as I've wearied down in my old age, I've become more introverted, which is really weird. I haven't been getting as much energy from people as I used to. And I realized that sometimes, whether we give ourselves too much, that can be draining to the wrong people, or sometimes like small little chit chat that's so boring and it's like, how's the weather? How's this? It doesn't excite me. And I realized that unless if I have like this, for example, exciting conversations or interesting conversations, empowering conversations, I find that it drains my energy a lot as well. And so being in that small group of, 3 people, that's perfect. You can be yourself. You don't need to worry about anything else. I completely get it. It's been a bit of a journey for me. Normally it's the other way around, from introvert to extrovert, but extrovert more to introvert. I'm still an extrovert, but just, what springs to mind?
Since we're talking about it, what is it about being an extrovert that is, I don't know if that makes sense. What is satisfying? Like, what moves you to be extroverted? Is it sort of, could it, I guess some people it may be a similar thing, like anxiety feeds it or a need to sort of, I don't know, but so what is it for you, or what was it when you were more extroverted that
I'll try and give layers because I didn't have as much self-awareness then. I think there was also an aspect, this is like 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, where there was an aspect of trying to hide from yourself and not being okay with yourself and just meeting a lot of people to be busy. That's a smaller, actually, I don't know how big it is. Then there was another element where just feeding on people's energy, not like a vampire. Like if someone says something interesting or exciting, or this is what they did, this is their hobby, kind of like, exactly like this, that really excites me. Like I feed off when someone's like happy and excited and doing well or trying something different or new, even if they might not feel amazing, but they're trying or doing something that I view as interesting. That's so exciting to me. So I feel like, for example, this is a slight tangent, that if my friends are doing really well, even if it has nothing to do with screenwriting or podcasting or whatever, that's exciting to me just to be in that energy. So I think there was just something that it felt like my cells were being charged. But now if I have non-authentic conversations or I reveal too much of myself where the other party or parties don't quite, we're not on the same page or they don't value or whatever, then I find that a bit draining. So I'm way more cautious with who I spend my time with as well. Does that answer? I threw a few things there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can relate to that too. I mean, some of that just feels like, you already said it a bit, but like just getting older. Yeah. There's an element of like, this is morbid, I've only got so much time.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Let's be interesting, right?
My tolerance has become limited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
But I do find people interesting, and that's something I think as I've gotten older, I I find more people interesting. I'm more interested in what they have to share and say if they want to,
Oh,
than I do to
I
share anything.
I like that, and this just springs to mind. I've had 7 weddings in 2.5 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the weddings, and I
Yeah.
actually like weddings, but there's a point. So I'm in, I'm, I'm still interested in people, and I love hearing people's stories. I think I've got a balance of when I share the stories and when I don't outside. I don't know why it is. I think because I live my life this way. I haven't really thought about this, so this is the first time I'm expressing it. But when I view someone as not living an authentic life, because I think I didn't live as much of an authentic life as I do now, and I've still got a long way to go. Like, I've got a lot of friends that I perceive, and this is my perception, I'm probably completely wrong, as not living an authentic life, and they're incredibly suppressed. But when I see someone like, who's got all the skills and abilities to live a little bit of a better life for them, and they're like, how's the weather going in these conversations? I just can't do it anymore. And it's just, I'll listen, I'll smile, but I'm just like, I can't. I just, yeah.
What is the how do you know if they're living inauthentically?
Brilliant question. There's so many things. I'll have to like check my notes from when I've been writing down. One, there's just generally, okay, generally they're people I know. There's like this, the aura's kind of gone. Their head's down. They're not as happy. They're not as talkative. It's just whenever you try and talk about a subject that's a bit more real, not politics, forget about that, but just something that's exciting, it'll go straight back to, the cricket or sport, or just there's this, it feels like this suppressed energy. And I could be reading it wrong, but generally the take is with people that I know or they've been friends or vice versa. And you
Yeah.
just feel like they're hunched over, just, in that kind of way. And I'm not talking about depression or sadness. I have complete tolerance for that. It's just more when you can see someone and the sparks kind of left, and you want to help them, and you're like, how do we? Yeah, I can just see
Their
you
life
looking
force.
intensely.
No,
So
no,
yeah,
no. They're you feel that you see that they're like life light. Their life source is
yes,
dimmed a bit,
yeah.
and
And I'm there to help and
yeah,
support if they need. And one, my perception could be wrong, but two, it's just like a general. You can tell with certain people, and it's like I'm here to help, but it's just like, come on, man, live. We all deserve to live a better life, and that could be 5%. Or I believe everyone can live their best life possible. It's very hard. We have to make a lot of. You have to work through a lot of things, but it's just like you can do it, and then every
yeah,
opportunity you make, inverted commas, a decision away from it, like you can do it. Anyway, that's
yeah,
my rant.
yeah, yeah.
Does that answer the question about like because you also mentioned how as you get older you've got less tolerance. So does that also manifest in other aspects, or are you just happy to
Well,
listen?
I think the tolerance is more. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I think I try to have more. I try to actually have more tolerance for people because do I want to go into this? I don't want to go there. I just there is a certain amount of yeah. I don't want to go there.
That's fair.
Sorry.
No, no, no. Don't need to apologize whatsoever. I'll
Yeah.
just clarify. There's not like if someone's like feeling like numb or down, I'll be like, I don't want to talk to you. I will be there. I'll be present. I'll listen, but I
Yeah.
won't give
Yeah.
100% of myself. I won't take it on. I'm still
Yeah.
a support
Well, I
system.
think that's fair. I don't think
Yeah.
we have enough. Most of us don't have enough bandwidth to take on what other people are going through.
And I actually
But
think that's healthy depending on the
yeah,
person
I
as
do
well.
too. I
Yeah.
do too because then you end up damaging yourself with things that you'll be less and less available for others. I think if you take
Exactly. You
on
need to
too
fill your
much.
cup up first as well.
Yeah.
And you can only control what you can control as well. Like if your friend's going through something, you can be there, you can be empathetic, you can be there, but you can't Like, at least for me, I can't be like every day, what can I do? How can I help them? Like, I also have my life. Like, when I'm there or even afterwards, I can help in my capacity, but you can't take it on because then you get pulled in every single direction possible. Then you're not actually, you're doing a disservice to yourself.
Yeah.
We've just saved the world's problems.
Yeah, I know, we did.
And back on the nerve side, so I think this is really interesting, and I heard you talk about this previously. We've mentioned how auditions can be quite nerve-wracking, but then when you're on set, you feel much more confident. Can you explain that to me?
Well, that depends.
Of course, there's many different factors.
Yeah, if it is my first day on a new set, I'm going to be working really hard to appear calm because I'm not.
Yeah.
I usually end up like cracking a joke or something, or like just or I don't know. I just try to get involved. I try to get involved creatively as quickly as I can to test the waters, how far I can go, how much I can contribute in what way,
Nice.
so that I know what the parameters are on this set, and I can live within these parameters or they're going to let me just go. If I'm a guest star for a few days on a show where a cast has been together for like The Boys, for years, I mean, that was a bit different though, because with The Boys, I got to sort of work on that character in Gen V, which was a new show and a new cast. So I was on the 4th episode of that. They were still getting to know each other. So then I got to come into The Boys with a jacket of a character that I kind of already knew, even though it was written a bit different once we went to The Boys. But still, I was walking into a pretty intimidating group of people. I mean, fucking superheroes, I just mean character-wise, I watched that show, so that's always surreal, and it's a weird experience to walk into the meeting room at Vought and that table, and there's Anthony Starr in his Homelander getup and talking in his Kiwi accent, and it's like, what the fuck, it's so. But yeah, when I'm first, like, I'm most nervous on those days when I get up in the morning, I'm getting ready. I don't know what the set's going to look like. I don't know what the base camp is going to be like. I don't know, my brain needs to, in order to calm down, I feel like my brain needs to know to know what things are going to look like, or needs information. Yeah. So before I have any information, before I show up for the day, that's when I'm the most nervous. When I get there and I get in my trailer and I meet a few people, I start to calm down a little bit. Then I put the costume on, I get a little bit more nervous again. On the walk to set, getting more nervous. Walk on set, walk through the scene a couple times, the nerves calm down. Once I know what I'm supposed to do, it's just, I have to know what I'm going to do, and I freak out a bit before I have any information.
That's natural to the human experience, and what you're doing to minimize that nerves is that you then go and collect data, because people don't understand that when you're I know you said you were on another show, that Gen V, which led to The Boys, but people don't understand how, or in my mind, how scary it can be. As you said, a well-established cast, but even just in general, what's the vibe? Is the director nice? Are you expected to ad-lib? Are you expected to do it the first time? If you fuck up, are people going to yell at you? Is this going to be the worst thing ever? And every set is so unique and not always great from what I hear as well. So there's all these scary bits as well. Also, and I do want to do acting, and I think I was in Preacher for like 0.01 of a second as an extra, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they came to Australia for some reason, but we'll pigeonhole that. And
Oh, I knew that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was after me, but yeah.
that makes no sense to me. But all of these things in my mind, and I'm not an actor by any means, all of these things feel like they take away from the creative process because there's so many different things happening. It's like, it's not, I described it once as like meeting a girl for a first date for the first, meeting her family, sorry. So, you met the girl's family for the first time. And someone said, no, it's like your girlfriend's not even there and you don't know the family. That's how they described being a guest actor.
That's pretty apt. Yeah, I think that's pretty apt.
And that's not necessarily, I know there's nothing you can do about it. That's not necessarily the best way to foster creativity. Now you need to perform and act. So I completely get it. There's so many things. So what else is worked for you?
That's the, you always have, as an actor, you try to get lost and you try to be messy and you want to get lost in the scene and see your partner and the character they're playing and all that. But you always have that little actor voice, that little actor brain. Otherwise, you're insane. You have that little actor voice that tells you, it's all the technical acting things. And so that's also helping you calm down when you're freaking out. Like, it's just, I guess that is technique and that's experience. Yeah, that's training, I guess, is that little actor voice that is, when you do theater, or camera, you have to know where the camera is. You have to be somewhat aware of it for the most part, and what it's doing, and even, the lens and how that determines the sort of size that you can give, whether it's a close up or a mid shot or whatever. It's that little actor voice is helping you along, and it's also helping you on those with those, like, the nerves and the, also I just, for the first time ever, I took beta blockers when I did The Boys. I'd never done that before, and that helped me a lot, just to calm you're still nervous, but I was prescribed them, so it's not like
Met a guy in the corner and was like, give me a couple.
Yeah, but like it's you still feel the nerves, but the shakiness doesn't happen as much, and the tightness of the voice, and you just are able. And I only need it for the first day, just to. It's really about meeting people. That's what I'm most nervous about. That's really it. It's not even about the work. It's really about meeting people and hoping that they like me.
So can I add to that? Like, you've just met me, and I think, and I'm not saying this to suck up to you. You've just met me, and I think you're doing brilliantly. I think you're a lovely human. I've also done so much research on you, and you come across the same way. I'm like so surprised to hear all of these things, especially with nerves.
Well, but what's funny is you say that, and I'm sitting here for the last half hour thinking, I don't think anything I've said on this podcast makes any sense. I don't think anything can be, there can't be any line drawn. It's all weird. That's what I said at the beginning before we started, or like, I'm always firing off, and I interrupt myself all the time. This whole time I'm like, I don't think I make any sense, and this probably can't be used, but
all of your thoughts are valid, but I don't see it that way. In fact, I don't agree with you. We're always...
Wait till you get in the edit.
I just so people understand, every single person has these feelings as well. It can vary, but it's so, and it's not like it's not like a TED Talk where you're like here to provide, like, this is a conversation. This is your life. People get to understand you. I know you know all of this stuff, but like a TED Talk, these are the facts, these are the figures. So it's like very different in a conversation. First of all, I've taken a lot out of it and I find it very interesting, but it's so interesting how we can be our own critic. When I've been on other podcasts, or even when I've been rambling today, I'm going to look back and go, what was I saying? What was going on? Oh, that wasn't as bad. And that happens all the time. because I've done so many, I've had to let go. But there's still moments of madness. Like, oh my God, why did I say that? I actually meant this, or oh, and it happens all the time. And I think people, when like, you know, you're being authentic, you're being true, you're coming from, you know, it might sound a bit wanky, but like love in that respect, people understand, respect, and accept it. And yeah, that's my TED talk.
All right. Well, it is easier. Like to this format is a lot easier too because it's just like you said, it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
When I've been asked to like come speak to a class or something like an acting class, I always open up the floor immediately because
Cool.
I don't know what the fuck to say. I need some stimulus. I have to have that. Because I would rather I need to know that that someone in the room is at least interested in something I have to say.
Yep.
Rather than just starting to say something and assuming everyone is interested, because I never think anyone's interested. You're asking questions, so I'm like, okay, he's interested.
Yep.
I'm allowed to answer now. I can sort of loosen up and be myself. Yeah.
No, I'm the same. Like people, well, not many, but some people have been like, why don't you do a podcast, an aspect of just about yourself? And I'm like, I cannot talk just about myself for half an hour, whatever. Maybe if there were questions or another guest, but the thought of me just looking at the camera for let's say an hour, so I'm like, no one will want that. It's also like kind of, I don't know what springs to mind. I saw you leap out.
Oh, no, I'm just listening. No.
It's also kind of like, and I love stand-up comedians. I watch a lot of stand-up. That is also very intriguing to me if you don't do crowd work, because you're saying the same thing, you're speaking at people, and you're saying potentially the same thing hundreds of times. Like that doesn't excite me. There'll need to be other elements which comedians do to make it work. But yeah, like I admire people that can do that. And I think I also heard you on another podcast where I think I'm not sure the right word is aspirations, but you would have liked to been able to do stand-up, but it's not something that you necessarily are going to try. I feel like if you can go into a room, you can do this, you can go on The Boys, the biggest show of the last 10 years, super daunting, and do your thing. I feel like you could get up on stage and perform. What are your thoughts?
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I don't know that there's anything that terrifies me more than the thought of walking on stage with my own material and expecting, like, people are expecting me to be funny. Yeah, I don't know of anything, and I think a lot of comedians probably feel the same way, and there's something sort of masochistic about them that just. And I get that too, and I might do it someday. I mean, I've been encouraged to try it, but you know, I haven't always even thought of myself as being a funny actor or person. Like I said before, I was before I went to school, I was kind of serious actor guy. I was like, you know, give me Hamlet or nothing. Like now, if I'm too old, but like if I were to play Hamlet, there's a lot of comedy in there. I know that, you know. So, and there's a lot of clown work that has gone into all of my work now. So like, but yeah, I still have a hard time thinking of myself as being funny. Yeah.
That's wild to me.
I mean, he won't listen to this. Before I got Preacher or Futureman or anything, I was meeting with, I switched agents and I was meeting with my new agents in LA, and we're friends, so it's okay. And we haven't talked about this, but my manager took me to the meeting, and you know, they all got in the room, and I was auditioning a lot for like more serious cable TV dramas and things. And my manager with, there's like 20, 30 agents in the room. They all are there to meet their new client, and I'm moving to LA, and it's exciting and everything. And my manager goes, now he looks at me and he says, now he's not funny. He's not a funny actor. He's never going to star in a comedy. He's never going to do comedy. He's going to play a cop, like be in a cop drama, like rough kind of. And I thought at the time, I was like, well, I think I can be funny. But he must be right, and that was a year before I got Preacher, which wasn't necessarily funny, but that is what led to no one watched it, but Future Man, which was a very funny show, and one of the things I'm most proud of. And now I think people do see me as being some weird brand of funny, I guess. I still have a hard time admitting it, that I can be funny.
Future Man, for example, hilarious. So did that
I agree. I mean,
no, go on.
What I learned about that show was really, it's just about playing it straight. It's just about playing it absolutely 100% serious, life or death. And the circumstances and the situation, that's what makes it funny. When I've talked about this a lot. It's one of my favorite pieces of writing ever. In season, apologies to everyone listening, because you probably never watched that show, but I had there was a little speech I had about little kids who this is awful. It sounds awful. Little kids who would come up and hug you, and they had bombs on them and they would explode, right? That's tragic.
Yeah.
But in the context of the show and what was happening, I'm telling this little story about these toddlers who have these toddler bombs, and they start hugging themselves so that they'll explode, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a tragic thing, right? But that is what's funny. Like, the whole thing of, I guess that's sort of what your podcast is about, but like, failure is funny, right? Like, somebody, Buster Keaton, walking down the street trying to pick up his hat and kicking it down the street and not being able to pick it up. Like, that's funny. That's what comedy is. Like, I'm telling this story about these little kids hugging themselves and exploding themselves, and it's one of the most brilliantly funny things I've ever gotten to say on camera. And I don't know what brought me to that, but yeah, I don't know if you watched that show, but that's one of my favorite.
No, I've started watching. Okay, I've got so much to say, but with the dark comedy, one of the shows I'm writing is a dark comedy, and it's like situations like that, and it's so funny because the tragedy, the most horrible elements, and turning it into comedy. That is genius. That's like, I'm not saying I'm a genius, but with the example you gave, that is so funny. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if you watched that show. That's
exactly, yes, yeah.
There's a reason a show like that has gone out for 14 plus seasons. Yeah. It is so funny, so dark, so brilliant. And the comedy aspects of it is so phenomenal. I don't know why I also brought this up, but it's so good. That show, for example, has inspired
these people,
me.
They take themselves so seriously. The situation is so serious and so life or death, and that's how it often was in Future Man too. And it's, to the outsider, it's absurd. Like, the situation is totally absurd, but these people are taking it so seriously that it's funny, And you can't I don't know, it's a case-by-case basis, but usually you can't really have a wink-wink, nudge-nudge, in that it has to be 100% committed, whatever it is. And that's the only way that stuff plays. I love playing that kind of stuff. And maybe that's how I found myself doing comedy, and is, serious actor guy going into the funny material, and allowing himself to do it. I don't know. But.
I have so many questions on that, Ed. I'm not just saying this. You just gave me a light bulb moment. One of the scripts that I've been playing around with, when you just said you need to like play committed and serious, that's a light bulb moment because the characters need to be serious, and that allows for the absurdity. That was very important for me. Thank you for that. From the comedy side, because even like Arrested Development, Jason Bateman, he plays like the straight man, but that allows for so much comedy, and he's like also meant to be, inverted commas, a super serious guy. But how did it feel when you've got that massive meeting with all the agents and the manager, and they go, Derek is not funny? It just feels like it's not true, but two, it just feels not necessary to say. You could be like, Derek is.
We've never. He won't listen to this, but I don't know. We've never talked about it.
I'll call him up.
I don't know. But the thing is, like, at the time, he hadn't seen. There hadn't been an opportunity. He'd only repped me for a couple of years and seen some auditions, and I was auditioning for mostly serious stuff, so he hadn't seen me, do anything really funny. And look, with Future Man, I just happened to find a character in a world that I clicked with. And yeah, I learned so much doing that. I did that for 3 seasons with really great people. And that taught me a lot about being funny and doing comedy on camera.
Okay, well, now I've written down, I think, like 10 or 15 points. We'll see if we can even get through like half of them. So I'm so happy you had that experience to allow you, one, that, to show you that you are actually funny as well. But you mentioned that when he said that, your thought was he must be right. Isn't that so interesting, from now? What springs to mind? And I'm not having a go at your agent or manager. This is just purely about you. And how
because if he said that now, or someone said that now, I might have the same reaction. Oh, he must be right. I probably would have the same reaction.
Why do you think? Because they see you in one aspect, like.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, there's also an element of like, I guess there's also an element of like, oh, you must be right for what you know of me. I get to show you something different at some point. I get to show you that I'm funny, and I'm not going to worry about what you think right now. But I get to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Like, now I know that I can do it in the right situation, so I'm not really, and I wasn't really tripping on it, when that happened. I was just trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
It's funny when someone says that and you look at 30 people and they're all like, okay. Yeah. Like, well, I guess we just all 30 of us just agreed that I'm not funny. And we seem to be okay with it. So
we've all made a conscious decision to judge you on this meeting.
They must have that. I guess exactly. And they have that quota filled on their roster. So I'll just play my part and be here to play a cop for you whenever whenever. I still have yet to play it. No, I did play a cop, but that's
It's a funny.
I don't know. I think there's a part of me that accepts it for the moment and then takes it as not a challenge, but as all right, I'm gonna remember that. And there's something. It's similar to. I've when I was doing theater, I understudied in a big production on Broadway once. It's the only time I've ever done Broadway, nice. And it was before I'd done any TV or anything. But I was understudying the star of that show, and I never got to go on. But I was always there's something about it that is like, it's terrifying, and when you think about it, like. Outside of it, you're like, God, I'd be so scared to do that. I should liken this to doing stand-up too. But if the moment arises, I'm like, oh, fuck yes. Because in that situation, it's the same with anything, really. It's the same with playing any part. When you're playing a part regularly and you have you have to do it and you have those nerves before the curtain rises or before you start shooting the scene or whatever. The thing that I've always told myself, see, this is a tangent. I just go
No, these are tangents are part of it.
The thing that I have found that I tell myself when I start to like have doubts or freak out is, you know what? Like if I'm in a theater and I'm about to play, Richard III or something, it's terrifying. First performance.
Yeah.
First preview performance, first time in front of an audience, let's say. This happened a few years ago. And right before the curtain comes up, I'm standing there, I've got, all this, and it occurs to me I could just run off right now. I could just run off and I wouldn't. But then what I think is, and this is what I always tell myself, I am the only person in this room that can do this. That's it. There might be some guy out there that knows the lines, but he doesn't know how to do it in this production. He doesn't. I'm the only person that can do it. I have an advantage over everyone in this room in that I'm the only one that can do it. So I'm going to do it. I get to do it now. And it's the same with when I get freaked out about, it's less so on camera stuff because once you've done it a few times, and then you really only have to do it a few times, and then you never have to do it again, which is still a weird thing to me because I come from theater where you do it, 8 times a week. It's so weird to me that you learn these lines and you do the scene and then you can forget them.
It's just like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. No, I was gonna say it's kind of nice too. Like it's so much in a way. Yeah, you get paid a lot more to do camera. It's also to do TV and film. It's also parts of it are a lot harder. The schedule is fucking brutal, but a lot of it is so much easier. The acting is so much easier as far as I've experienced. I can't speak for everyone.
Yeah.
But, you only have to get up and do it for a couple hours from a few different angles. Whereas you're having a shitty day, you're coming down with the flu or something, there's no understudy in this particular production, and you still, at 8 o'clock p.m. tonight, you got to go play Macbeth. And you just don't have it in you. But then something takes over and you do it. But then you have to do it every night. It just still blows my mind that when you do TV and film, you just do it a few times and then that's it.
and as you said, the pay is also very different. I'm very intrigued from the theater side as well, because you said 8 times, so maybe sometimes it's twice a day as well. And you do it for, I don't know, a few weeks, a month, or whatever, depending on the period. How you keep yourself not only how you keep yourself mentally and physically, fresh for each time. You said it just kind of happens, but I'm sure you had techniques, or you did something, or you think of something.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was younger, I didn't think about it as much because I was a smoker. I would like, after a show, I would go have several pints and then have a matinee the next day, and like you just start the show with a hangover, and then by the end you're okay, I guess. I can't do that anymore. I mean, I don't do as much theater, but now it's more about like there's definitely a lot more rest and look, people much older than me are doing 8 shows a week. I can still do it, and I want to keep doing it. But there is I am now aware of like taking care of myself, and I don't drink nearly as much, especially if I have a matinee the next day. I don't smoke. I haven't smoked in a long time.
Oh, wow.
It's there's just a lot more self-care, I guess.
That's awesome.
Because you want to be able to show up and do the show.
Yeah.
There's something about youth that you can still do it and get through it and give a good to decent performance, I guess.
Where did the self-care come from? Was that just an age thing? Something happened, a few things? Because it's pretty...
Well, I can't believe I just said that because I actually hate that phrase. But
I think everyone does, but it's important.
all I mean is just taking care of my body physically and mentally. You know, you have to do that when you're doing theater, especially something like Shakespeare, when you're speaking constantly for 2-3 hours every night. It's just. You just have to keep your tool in shape.
It's very good advice, but as you said earlier, and we've all done this. You're potentially drinking and smoking too much, and then obviously there's been a shift. Was there anything that happened, or just age? No,
I think when I was in school, I started to get we do yoga 2 or 3 times a week
at school,
and it was a big. Wow. We start the days with that, and I found the gym and started eating better. In 2017, I stopped eating meat. I now eat fit. I'm pescatarian now, so but I haven't had meat since then, chicken or anything like that. That's been really good for me.
Nice. Energy levels as well, mentally.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cool.
So, and that's just being smarter with my body, taking care of myself, and
nice.
My big problem now is sweets. I have
They're highly addictive. With sweets. I know. I can see you shaking your head. I lost like 10 kilos for my wedding a couple of months ago, and I gained it back so quickly through sweets. It's an addiction. This should be illegal. I want all refined sugar. It's a chemical. Yeah. What?
It is. I don't. Yeah. I for my own sake, I wish there was like regulation within my own household. But I'm not going to put that on anyone else. I have to be responsible for my own choices. So
that is a great way.
I just try not to buy it, But God, if it's around, yeah. I just came back from my partner's family's house. We were there for a while, and they always have sweets around in the pantry. And oh my God, I can't stop myself.
Once I have one,
if it's there, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, I know this is going to not sound... I've spoken about this a little bit through the years where I've stopped for months and then continued. I'm like 2 weeks-ish, haven't had... And once you don't have it for like 5 days, you actually... There's so much more clarity and you don't feel that you need it. But those like first few days when you've had a lot of sugar... There's actually I've noticed, and my mood's always the same. I don't get grumpy or any of that stuff, or a little bit, or get angry all the time. It's I don't even have the words to explain. I'm grumpy, I'm moody, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say fidgety. I'm not thinking as clearly. And then once you pass through that horrible phase, it's a lot easier. So I'm 2 weeks clean, and I'm gonna keep it going.
That's great. That's refined sugar. That's all refined sugars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that fruits and other stuff doesn't have the same impact. It's the refined sugar.
It's the same for me. Yeah, exactly.
If anyone could take away anything from it, you just beat those few days and it's so much easier. But it's actually a drug. People say it's as addictive as cocaine. I don't know how they know that, but definitely I've never had cocaine. But I could see that. You have sugar every day almost.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that for sure. God. Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. That's my drug for sure.
Well, good that you've removed all the other stuff. And also, while this springs to mind, what has helped in case anyone, because everyone else struggles with this, protein has actually helped me. Having a bit of protein, whether it's protein powder or whatever other form of protein, that's helped. Or having an apple. Sometimes a green apple because it's so sour. Anyway, I'm very interested. You mentioned you quit smoking. Oh, no. Yep.
No. I was just going to say I'm into pink lady apples right now. That's my jam.
I like them as well.
Very sweet.
because they're very sweet, but because I don't like green, but because the green's so sour, it does something and stops me.
Yeah,
but yeah, red apples are.
I did nothing but Granny Smith, but the green apples for a long time, and I kind of got burnt out on them. So, but I do love them.
Yeah,
apples and peanut butter. That's my favorite like healthy
butter.
snack.
Interesting.
Natural
I'm not a peanut butter guy. I like
my favorite.
I like how you mentioned you got burnt out. I did a New Zealand trip with a friend. We were, camper vanning around New Zealand in the south, and we were pretty much living off tuna cans. And I cannot have tuna to this day.
Yeah.
Like I just can't do it because that's all I had. And it's just, like when you vomit off a certain alcohol and you can't have it for a while, the smell that triggers something, that's tuna to me.
Yeah, that'll do it. Hey, you gotta be careful with that. Too much tuna with the mercury and all that stuff.
I don't have cans anymore. But even normal tuna that doesn't come out of good point as well. And then I'm very, very intrigued from the smoking side. What made you stop that? Because that's also a really hard addiction.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't think that I was ever addicted, honestly. I mean, I was pretty casual with it. But I got I was pretty regular, actually. But I quit that. I was smoking for like 10 years. And it was a girlfriend I had. We decided to quit at the same time, and it was just both cold turkey.
Just like that.
27, yeah. So there was an accountability aspect to it.
You could be I'm just going to the grocery and then, do the whole pack and like, where have you been?
See, but I didn't find it that hard. Now, sweets, I need to do that with sweets.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do because that is absolutely my drug. I mean, yeah.
Should we?
I could live without everything else.
Should we do an accountability challenge?
Well, you got a 2-week head start on me. So.
That's fine. So it's up to you. 2 weeks from now, I can't touch anything. Or you can think about it. You can let me know at the end of the podcast.
All right, yeah.
I want to tie up a few things because I've written down so many points, which is great. I want to go back to Future Man. We were talking about nerves before and how, it's very different with whether you're like a guest actor or you've been on a show a few times, but then Future Man, you wanted the leads. How did you find your nerves were, especially after, a few episodes?
Actually, early on in that show, I was quite nervous because I'd only done my only regular sort of everyday acting job on camera was Preacher, and I went right from Preacher to Future Man. Yeah. And I didn't really understand what Future Man was. I don't know that any of us really knew what it was. And I was really nervous all the time because I'm saying these weird lines and the words that are made up, and I don't know the writers that well. Now they're very dear friends of mine, but I'm just nervous that I'm not doing it right and I'm not funny, and it was an odd experience. The good thing about that though is Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg directed the first couple episodes, and they're Seth especially is not shy about laughing if something's funny. Oh. So if I could hear a chuckle or something there, I would know I'm doing something right. So that was nice. But overall, I was really nervous. And that first season, we thought we had the potential to be a big successful show. So we had some big fancy guest stars. Yeah. And on and that first season, I mean, we had amazing actors, Ed Begley Jr. and Glenn Headley, like incredible. But we had a guest star on maybe the 5th episode or so, and it was David Koechner. Do you know David Koechner?
Yeah.
Okay. He brought something. He basically showed me how to act in that show because he was so grounded and so real and so moving in this crazy sci-fi fish out of water show. And it was like, oh, that's it. You just play it. You play it real. You play it real. And so that about halfway through that first season is where, after he shows up, is where I feel like I start to drop in and figure it out. Just watching him come in to set for 1 or 2 days and just absolutely kill it and be as real as possible and amazing and funny.
How nice. And also, another kudos to you. You're the lead. And then you see a guest actor. You could be like, I'm the lead. I'm just doing my roles. You can let your ego go wild. I don't need it. I could see. Yep.
Yeah, but that guy's, you know, I've loved him for a long time and have so much respect for him. I was just so excited to be, you know, I felt like, who cares? I'm whatever on the call sheet. Like this guy is. It was such a pleasure to be on set with him. So
that's so nice, and it's also a good mentality by you. We've heard other people on the podcast talk about other people that when they are, you know, a certain number on the call sheet, they're just like they don't care. They're not there to learn or grow or whatever, and they're just there to do the lines. But you know, just that small little instance, and you also Future Man. It should be it's such a good concept. It's so funny. There's so many. I'm surprised that it didn't. You know, 3 seasons is still good, but
yeah, it was good. They at least allowed us to wrap it up. It just wasn't. It was on Hulu. That's where we were. Hulu was just. They didn't have. Well, the only hit shows they had at the time were dramas. It was *Handmaid's Tale* was the big show, and so our show kind of got. It didn't get a lot of help promotion-wise, which was unfortunate because, I think it's a very special show. I always think, like, maybe, you know, it's funny because Hulu was only in the U.S. at the time, so, but it's since gone on to be in international market, and so I get some, like, Instagram people, you know, will hit me up from wherever, cool. And they've just seen it because it's just come on in their country, and that's exciting to me. I think that's really, really cool.
I'm hoping
so it does have like a little bit of life.
I'm hoping it's like a Manifest situation. I think you're friends with Matt, who was on Manifest, where I don't know if this is quite the real story. People can Google it, where it was doing okay, and then it ended, and then it went on Netflix, and then it just so many eyeballs that then I did another season or two. That's what we're doing and putting it out there. Let's get another 2 seasons plus. I genuinely think they could. I
absolutely do. I mean, I've had so many ideas. Sony owns the property. I don't think they'd ever do anything with it now, unfortunately, or allow us to do anything. But yeah, I mean, even like just a little single camera cooking show with Wolf, like that. That's, you know, or like I pitched an animated series, which is like a Wolf in the '80s Cheers style restaurant show, but
cool.
You know, we just can't do that. So
good on you for trying. And can you explain? You don't need to like say Sony specifically, but I never understood that when someone holds the rights, the show's ended. Isn't it in their best interest to try different things, or even if they sell it, or you know, like it's done?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I could be completely wrong about that. That's just what I've been told. That could just be the shorthand of like, we don't want to do anything with it.
Yeah.
You know, it could just be like, forget it, Derek. You're never going to do that again. So
I'm also putting it out there. Like other shows have been bought by other networks as well. So Netflix, if you,
I know. At the very least, I wish Netflix would just pick it up and start streaming the old seasons. I think that would be a huge thing for them.
That'd be epic.
For that show. Yeah, because that's we've seen that, like shows that are 5 years old, they come to Netflix and suddenly, you know, people are watching it. So it was just a timing thing. I think it was a timing thing, and I really believe in that show, and it was very special to me. And I love doing it. I love the people.
I'm very happy you had that experience. Last question about it. What were your, I know you said this kind of before, but it's very rare that you kind of get to go out on your own terms. Like you got an end, I believe. I'm not up to that yet.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts around that? Normally just, seasons get cut abruptly and that's it.
Well, I mean, we were very thankful that we got to wrap it up in a way. The third season's shorter. They sent us to Canada to shoot. We were in Montreal because it was cheaper. I loved doing it because we shot the first 2 seasons in Los Angeles, which was great because I lived there at the time. But then I loved shooting in Montreal. Yeah, it was just, I felt very, because there was a moment where it was like, oh, we may not get, it may just be over. Maybe over. And so that was very depressing. But the fact that they gave us 8 episodes and a little bit of money to go and wrap it up, it says a lot about, the powers that be. And, at least we got to do that. So,
yeah, nice. People don't realize
so there's
that,
a complete, yeah, I know. And there's a complete story out there now that it's all there. I would still feel really bad if we just had, that would be so heartbreaking. And I know that happens all the time.
I know. And, as a screenwriter, there's a story to tell. And people don't understand it's not only the story, it's the friendships you make, the career opportunities, the confidence it would have given you, meeting different people. These people you spend your time with, and I've seen other interviews of yours, it genuinely looks like these people are your friends, not like the fake stuff, like they're family, they're our best friends. Like you genuinely look like you're having a good time. You don't have it in the same way, and all of that gets taken away if you want to look at it that way, just like at the click of the fingers. So I'm still glad that you had a wonderful time and it was a great opportunity as well.
Yeah. It was very special.
What we're going to do now to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment. So the first thing that springs to mind, but please take your time if you need. That's not actually rapid. And I won't comment on them because I always derail them. Ready to rumble? Yeah. Oh, actually, before I do that, I just want to tie up. I said Preacher. I know that you're in the first season. I don't know why it came to Australia. I assume they just came to Australia because of budget cuts. Because of tax purposes. I know it didn't make sense in the story.
Yeah.
And I was in it. I played like an Orthodox Jew, like probably like 100. There were 100 of us. It was the funniest thing ever. What was it? Why did I bring this up? Oh, okay. This can be in the rapid fire segment. What was it like when you were told that because you're also, I believe, a series regular. What was it like when you were told that you wouldn't be involved in that anymore after season 1?
Well, that's a bit of a story because I've told this before, I think. So I was shooting season 1 of Preacher. I had 2 weeks off because I wasn't in the episode they were about to shoot. So I came off of, I wrapped the episode. I came to my trailer. I had like 6 missed calls from Evan Goldberg and a text saying something like, Derek, it's Evan, call me, big Hollywood news. If you know him, that's exactly. Yeah. And so I called him and he said, okay, 2 things. We're killing you off the show, Preacher, and we got another show for you, which was Future Man. So it was bittersweet. So in that 2 weeks that I was off of Preacher, I went to LA from Albuquerque and shot the pilot for Future Man. And then went back and finished the season of Preacher. So, I was actually fine with it because
it's rare that happens.
It was unbelievable. I mean, yeah, it was amazing. I was moved from whatever it was, 9 on the call sheet to 3, and I was like, okay, well, this is my career's happening. Like, and it's the same people. They must like me. It's it's Seth and Evan. They're big deals. Like, I felt amazing. It was great. So
awesome.
And the show shot in LA. So, which is kind of rare.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's amazing. And the last thing about that, and then we'll get into the proper rapid fire. Why would they? I only binge watched it because I'm going to be in this like 0.0 of a second in the show. I actually quite like this show, but like they spent the whole season developing like all these characters and then killed everyone off. Was that always the plan? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It was always the plan. Well, it was at the time. It was kind of whatever that was, 2016. It was kind of a big deal to do something that radical, I think.
Yeah.
And the showrunner and writer Sam Catlin, who is just a fucking genius, and I hope I get to work with him again someday. I just think that was part of his like wonderful madness, to take it to develop this whole town of people and then destroy them at the end. And it sends you on a road trip with the three main characters, So it's been a long time since I've seen that show. So yeah, it makes sense to me. I can understand how frustrating it would be as a viewer.
Also as a screenwriter.
But
if you develop a character, there's also characters, your character, for example, and then bam, Game of Thrones.
I know. I mean, look, exactly. If I didn't have, I was so fortunate to have that happen and have another show right on the back. I mean, that never happens, especially with somebody who's just like a nobody, not a star celebrity actor. It's just like a guy that showed up to audition for Preacher, and now they're putting me in another. It was crazy. Cool. Yeah, I was fine with it because I had another show.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll go to. I'll do 5 quick questions from the rapid fire segment. What are you most proud of?
My love for my dogs.
What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
That would be the most terrifying thing of all, because I think the knowledge that I can fail, the fear, if there's no fear to overcome, then what is there? I think that's part of what drives me.
Nice. What is your next big dream or goal?
Finish a screenplay.
Can you tell me more about it, or you'll tell me once it's done?
I'll tell you once it's done. It's a sort of sci-fi thing that I'm writing.
Cool. What brings out the best creative content out of you?
Someone else being excited about something they're creating or an idea that I have. Collaboration.
If you do, who do you get most mistaken for?
I don't think. I've never been mistaken for anyone.
I'm going to give you a really off-center one. You kind of look a little bit like Charlie Day.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've gotten like that. You kind of look like somebody, but never mistaken for someone. Yeah.
Have you had that one?
Yeah.
Before?
Yeah.
And he's killing it. So the highest of compliments. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Embrace the fear, but allow your curiosity to be just a little bit louder than your fear.
Nice. No, I'll end with this one. Before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you, what is the one question I should have asked you, or anything you want to tie up?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. What should you have asked me? What's my dog's name?
What is your dog's name and what breed?
Sophie, and she's a pit bull rescue.
I saw somewhere in my deep stalking that pit bulls have been very close to you. What is it about the pit bull that you love?
Well, I always rescue dogs, and they're the most abundant in shelters, and so yeah. And my soul dog, we actually we lost 2 dogs in the last 2 years.
No.
To like, not to end on a downer, but
No, I love dog.
like,
I've got one, so I understand.
Yeah, we lost our 2 absolute soul dogs, and to like really horrific, sudden, rare diseases. Two different things a year apart. It was awful. Wow. But my soul dog was Olive, and she was a black pit bull, and black pit bulls are the hardest to find homes for. There's a prejudice against not just pit bulls, but especially black pit bulls. She had been in this rescue in the desert for like 2 years when I got her. She was everything to me. And Sophie, we got Sophie about a month after Olive passed away, and which is not, usually people advise you against doing that. So happy we have her now. She's like nice. The weirdest, like insane, super anxious, like so much like me. She's on Prozac. She's half blind. She's amazing. But yeah, she's my fourth dog love in the past, since 2017 is when I rescued my first dog. Yeah.
It's amazing what dogs do for the soul, and also the lightness of the planet as well. If we didn't have dogs, I don't even want to think of a reality. My wife just lost her family dog, and we share a dog with my parents, and it's amazing. We love this dog, but also saying goodbye to a family dog, and the joy. You mentioned abundance, but I'm using it in a different way. Just the way that they, like, you wag their tail, their love, it changes, it transmutes all these like negative emotions. When you can just see a dog look at you right there, see you for who you are, look into your soul, they're the greatest things on the planet. And I wish everyone had a dog. And also good on you for bringing awareness to pit bulls, because I don't know nearly enough, but they seem to have a very bad rap, and a lot of, information that's not necessarily true about them as well. And I know a few people that have had them, and there's, equal amount of love as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
The sweetest. I mean, I love them all sizes, all breeds, all whatever mutts. I just love them all. They're the greatest things in the world.
Cool.
So yeah.
I'm glad that you got Sophie. And before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
I'm on Instagram at _ Derek Wilson. That's it. DEREKWILSON.
I will put that in the episode notes below, and people start watching Future Man, contact, Hulu, contact whoever, let's get it made. And thank you so much. You are very inspiring. I enjoy you. You come across your calmness of energy, and, you're very insightful. This was great.
Totally impossible to believe, but I believe you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I love how Derek states, embrace the fear, but allow your curiosity to be a little louder than the fear. Short, sharp, and sweet, Derek realizes and acknowledges how we all have some degree of fear within us, but encourages us to allow curiosity to be in the lead, often resulting in powerful and wonderful results. By doing so, we won't even realize the fear or allow it to take over or impact us, thus transmuting the negative into a positive. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. Albert Einstein. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.